And going back into the whole creativity side of things, and something you said earlier about basically coming up with reasons why it was okay to operate in that gray space. Do you think being that creative mind, or being that entrepreneurial mind, that seeing things from different perspective type of mind, do you think that allows people to stay in those gray spaces and justify them for longer?
I think it, especially people with active imaginations, you get a very appealing escape.
And welcome back to the Be Successful podcast. I am your host, Brian Elam, where I help entrepreneurs with the heart of service lead their business and change the world. And today, I am blessed to be in the presence of another person out there doing good things to change the world. Samantha Belle is on the program today, and she helps high-level achieving creatives and entrepreneurs basically fall in love with their life again, the success they've created, and find fulfillment in all that they have made. So Samantha, thank you so much for being here today. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. I feel like you need to write some things for me. It was so lovely. I was like, ooh, I want that. I love that.
Right? Well, you're very welcome. And it rings true. You know, one of the ways I was thinking about our talk even earlier today, just because you are that type of person that remains in someone's memory, because I describe you as sparkly. You know, you have those people who, when they enter a room, when they come on a Zoom, when you be in their presence, there's just a sizzle to them. There's something to them, and you have that. So it's a testament. My intro is a testament to who you are.
I love that. And I appreciate that so much. I receive that. Thank you. And it's so interesting that you say sparkly, which of course my wife says that I sweat glitter. So I love that description. And I also had heard, especially, as an intuitive guide and coach, I heard the analogy of being a lighthouse for people. And I thought that I really wanted to be a lighthouse, but it still just felt too restrictive. And so I've started to really talk about both my programs and the people that I work with, as well as myself, as being giant sparklers in the sky, where there's still light that people can see, but it is flowing everywhere. And it's just giant ball of fire that's just big glittery. Anyway, so the fact that you said sparkly is, I'm very with that.
Love it. I love it how we're already vibing. We're already in alignment. It's going to be a great conversation. So one of the major things, aside from coaching, that you do is also you are an actress. So obviously that leads into how you began to work and think about creatives as well as just high achieving entrepreneurs as far as your service goes. But tell us your story. Like, how did what you do in the coaching space, how did that come about?
Yes. Oh my goodness. So I like to say I took my first exit stage right out of the womb. I came into this world a performer. I have been dancing since I was 3, doing that competitively throughout. And so I've always been a creative expression of joy and sparkly. And so I did it before it was a thing to do. And before it was a thing, I realized that I could do a little more professionally. And so I came from, my mom she works in mortgage, and my father is an environmental engineer. My stepdad was a Marine, and my stepmom's an accountant. So very corporate, very college equals success, very in that realm. And here I am, right? Little sparkler, little tap dance and everything that I can get my hands in. I like to say that I'm a variety pack kind of gal, like a little kaleidoscope. And that worked for me, but it was not something that I really experienced support in, as far as being able to see people really directly in line with me growing up. So I had a wonderful childhood. I'm very close to my family, my parents, and my mom's my best friend. And so I'm growing up, I'm doing the things. Comes time for college, and I want to perform, but I need to get a real degree. right? So I go to school for music therapy. And so I go thinking I've like tricked the system and I'm going to be able to perform. I sing, act, and model in front of the camera and dance as well. And then I do production, but at this time I was only doing in front of the camera stuff. So I was like, I will go to college and I'll get this degree and haha, I will get paid to perform for people and it'll be exactly what I want while getting a quote unquote real degree. Turns out I have a mental health degree and it is not just performing for people. It is a medical degree and a mental health degree, which was amazing and has really helped kind of spur all of this. I've always been into personal development. I have always been into growth. I've always been really connected to my intuition and my feelings. I've also always been very good at convincing myself of things, whether they should or should not be in that way, which kind of leads to my right line in the sand pivotal moment. I ended up in a toxic abusive relationship for 6 years. And it was in that gray space where I thought that the options were bruises or compassion. The option was back alley or consent. And I lived in that gray space. And so I personal developmented myself into saying that that was okay, that that was what was happening, and that, you know, relationships are supposed to be hard, and here it is, right? And all of that validating of that side. And so in 2017, actually, I was made aware from a validated standpoint from a professional level. I had some medical professionals say, you know, actually, this is not okay. And, you know, and this gray space is a space that is still valid, and et cetera, and gave me what I needed to make my move and pack up and transition my whole life. And so I left with 2 suitcases and $2,000 in 2017 and was like, okay, now that my life, I'm starting over, and what is this going to look like and it's going to be like? I also had a lot of healing to do. So while I've been performing this entire time, I had actually in 2015 started doing the production side of things, both in theater and behind the scenes for still photography. So just photographers as opposed to motion photographers, doing production with them. And while I was living overseas in Japan. And so I came back to the States 2017 and I said, okay, here we go. I'm Samantha. I have been fighting my whole life to be this entertainer and to embrace this identity that I haven't had before. I was not in the entrepreneurial space at all. And I was like, I'm an entertainer. This is what I do. And that's great until you have $2,000. And now restarting everything, I moved across the country, across the world. I'm from North Carolina and I moved to Phoenix, Arizona, with no family or anything, except I did end up with a support system. That's how I ended up in Phoenix. And so anyway, as I start my healing journey, as someone, especially with a therapy degree, I, of course, am a big proponent and a fan of therapy. And also as someone that is very expressive already, talk therapy for me wasn't really as beneficial as I feel like it can be for others. I think that there are people that practice that may or may not should. And so I'm starting to try to do this healing stuff, and I get exposed to energy, and I get really exposed into mindfulness from a subconscious standpoint. And I start doing hypnosis, and I start really focusing in on NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, and tapping, and those sorts of modalities. And my healing, I skyrocketed in years. I was doing things in moments that were taking me years before. So in moments I was healing things that were taking me years that I was still working on. And I just started to quantum leap, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is craze balls. And I, through these things, I really became kind of a master of that recovery period. And so I like to say that I'm the master of recovery and not necessarily living in general. People have asked me, like, you know, they have this idea that you have to be happy all the time, or right, that having negative emotion is bad, where it's all just feedback, and that's a separate conversation. But the recovery, I feel like, is really where I can come in and we can get back on track a lot faster. And so anyway, that's where my coaching came in from my degree, as well as I've always, of course, being expressive, I've always been there to help people. And as a recovering people pleaser, I was there for people in ways that weren't necessarily the healthiest. So I've been able to transition all of those things into something that is sustainable and healthy and moving forward. And so now I'm able to entertain and do both the in front of the camera and behind the scenes, as well as hit up my entrepreneurial people, which started in 2017, where I found myself with those $2,000, and that's great, but now I need money. So I did what people do, and I took to the internet, and I actually saw a Facebook ad and joined my first entrepreneurial company, and have been working through that, and just found a lot of really similar imposter syndrome, guilt, shame, a lot of shoulds, both with creatives and entrepreneurs. I find that most of the time they are people that are firsts in their family, and they're not necessarily surrounded by examples of how to do it well or without all of this trial, and that we get these patterns and we get these expectations and we get these beliefs that just make the road harder, even if we're on the correct path. And so once I realized that I could not only help myself with that, but that I could help others, it just all kind of came full circle. And now that's what I get to do day in and day out. And it's amazing and has been a whirlwind.
Yeah, that's incredible. And you're so right. It's those instances where, you know, you don't necessarily have that support if you are the first in your family. You know, just like your family, you were the first sparkler, you were the first creative, you know. In my family, I'm the first life coach, I'm the first coach, you know, teacher, entrepreneur, all of it. I'm the first one to do that in my family. So yeah, there's no roadmap for us, there's no guidance, you know, so we have to figure it out on our own. And going back into the whole creativity side of things, and something you said earlier about basically coming up with reasons why it was okay to operate in that gray space. Do you think being that creative mind, or being that entrepreneurial mind, that seeing things from different perspective type of mind, do you think that allows people to stay in those gray spaces and justify them for longer?
I think it, especially people with active imaginations, you get a very appealing escape. You get to build these things in your mind, especially if you're into personal development and you're visualizing and you're meditating. You can kind of start to disassociate, which is where you separate yourself from the reality that you're in. It can be an outer body experience. It can just be kind of a separation where if you consider yourself an entrepreneur or a mom or any of the hats that people wear, where if you're talking to someone as their friend versus as their parent versus as your sibling versus as a, you know, those all have different vibes and they have different energies attached to them. And just like people can switch in between all of those things, what I have found is absolutely when you feel like, especially for creatives, if you are able to create the space of comfort for within yourself, you can put that hat on where things are okay, and then remove it and not realize that it can all be in that space. And then entrepreneurs, especially ones that are coming as the first ones in their family, healers is another, a lot of people, this is the first one in their family. And even if it's not, it might be the first one to do it that in a certain way, right? The first one to really do it in 2022 with technology the way that it is, and marketing. And so there's all of these new things that aren't just as simple as a textbook. Here's how you start a business or heal people or express yourself. And so I find that because there's usually a mindset around seeking solutions and encountering problems and expecting those things, we can also start to create some chaos to give us problems to solve.
Interesting. Interesting, because I was going with, from what you were saying, with the whole avoidance, like an avoidance mechanism or comfort mechanism. You know how some people, they can use food or TV or whatever as an avoidance mechanism to kind of disassociate from their life, as you said, and make it more okay. And having that ability to, in a sense, use personal development, mindfulness, meditation as a way to disassociate, but not deal
Yeah.
with the problems. But what you just went into is not what I was expecting, but still, I think a very valid point.
It's and it's all wrapped, and that's why I love working one-on-one with people, and why all of my programs are one-on-one is because things aren't cookie cutter as much as we want them to be. And some things are, right? Like you can origami a swan only so many ways, right? And there's a time and a place for that. I think people and their limiting beliefs and the reasons that they do or do not stay where they are, or what got them there in the first place, or all of the patterns and how they keep running into the same thing, just personified in different ways throughout their life. All of those things have various reasons and solutions. And so I like to work one-on-one because we get to sit down and figure out, are we creating problems? Because I did that as an artist. I heard, like I said, I had a very good childhood, but I wanted to perform, I wanted to dance, I wanted to act, I wanted to sing. And you're told that these songs are written from pain and breakups and heartbreak, and people, you got to take the tumultuous times and you have to rise above them. Well, I didn't have any. So I started to create them for myself because I didn't feel as though I could create the kind of art that I wanted to create without pain. And so I started to really lean into the pain to validate the creating I was doing, which I find a lot, even with marketing. And as an intuitive, I not only can connect with people's energies and around, but I am also an empath to where I can feel other people's energies. And so for me, marketing, if I saw the solution that I wanted, right, they're marketing to money in this case, right? I didn't have a lot and I needed some, and I needed some quickly. And so it was, how do we get here? And they're talking about these pain points. Do you hate your job? Do you hate waking up to an alarm? Don't you just despise everything about your life, et cetera, et cetera? Well, I didn't, but I figured if this is what you needed to feel to be able to get the result, and the result is what I wanted, I started to adopt all the pain points that were being used in marketing, which was becoming very confusing because I didn't hate getting up in the morning, and I didn't hate waking up to an alarm, and I didn't despise my day to day. But then there was this part of me that said, well, if I don't do that, then I don't qualify for the reward. And so I don't get it. And so then I started to create problems for myself so I could solve them.
And what made you think that you needed to adopt those pain points to create that life? Like, what what convinced you that you needed to do that in order to have that result?
It was a subconscious thing. Of course, I didn't read market material and then go, it would be great. I should make my life a lot harder. I should just overthink everything and really just get dramatic. I was focusing so hard, right, on lack, on the debt that I had, and which, of course, law of attraction, it just attracted more, of course. And so
Right.
I'm really focused on that. And I'm seeing this light at the end of the tunnel. Well, the description of said tunnel is not the tunnel that I was experiencing. And so I therefore thought that the light wasn't at the end of my tunnel. And so I just moved tunnels. And I
Mm,
like,
mm.
so it was just again, because I'm very flexible, because I am a little kaleidoscope. I was like, that's not a problem. If you want me to have these problems to get that result, I can do that. No problem. Like, I can adopt that. No worries. If what I'm doing isn't what I need to be doing to create this tunnel of problems so that I can have your light at the end of it, oh, trust me, I am a great little ditto from Pokemon. Like, I can take any form, no problem, a little chameleon. So so then I would just adopt it because I found it would be easier than trying to, and again, right from this idea of having an example. These people were like, I just made $100,000 in my first year online doing X, Y, and Z. And so I'm like, well, that doesn't apply to me, but that was the example I had. So that's what I had to do. And so in my mind, it was like, look, I finally found a roadmap. Someone's going to teach me how to do this. It doesn't apply to what I am thinking or who I am as my identity or what I want to be doing, etc. But that's what I got. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I end up in this weird kind of seeing success, except not, because I'm sabotaging the whole way because it's not in alignment with what the heck is going on with me. And I just end up this muddled, now nothing is right because I don't trust myself because it doesn't align with this person. But what that person's doing isn't working for me. So now I don't trust my own decision to pick someone to follow. And so it all ended up coming back to this inner trust game that took actually quite a small amount of time to remedy once I realized, because the power of the subconscious mind is just beautiful. But yes, so it just ended up in these big crazy spirals because I wanted what I thought I didn't have.
Yeah, that's you just in the past 3 minutes right there. You just outlined the problem, the outcome, and the methodology, basically. Obviously high level, but my entire coaching program right there. So you and I are absolutely in agreement that in order to have the life that you want as an entrepreneur, the things you cannot do is chase other people's money. And you have to be in alignment with who you are. You have to be in alignment in your spirit and your business. They have to be going the same direction. And if they're not, you're right. You're going to end up in this place where you're kind of doing the things, but you're also self-sabotaging because you don't trust yourself. And it's just yeah. So
Yeah.
you were saying I need to write for you. Well, maybe we need to write for each other.
Yes, yeah, it's just such a conundrum that is only laughable when you're on the other side and you can see the pattern because it's so clear and you can be like, oh friend, I know that this feels so deep and it feels so encompassing, and it is in this moment, but it does not have to be. And there is a very straight, maybe a little curvy, but pretty straight line into knocking down walls to go layer by layer and get out of that. And that's 100% when I speak on multiple things, but my favorite keynote is called Permission Granted. And it's exactly about providing, again, instead of a lighthouse, but a sparkler in the sky of potential and opportunity. And I love to, again, why I do one-on-one and not just an outline of this is how you grow your business, is because I want to validate and give acknowledgement to the brilliancy that people have and that they have in their mind, and then when they dream and their quote unquote guilty pleasures, and realizing that those can just be pleasures, those can be your reality. You really can step into this life. You really can have those things as soon as you allow yourself to.
And allowing, yes, allowing is so huge. And again, alignment between you and me. Yours is permission granted, like mine that I just gave at the last virtual summit we were both a part of was permission to be powerful. And it's you have to allow it. You have to. And in that vein, when someone starts to, well, obviously they know, like if you're not living in alignment, if you're not feeling fulfilled in this amazing life you've created or being the person that you are, you know that there's something wrong. So the symptoms are there. You know it, you feel it. And how do you start knocking down those walls? How do you begin to chip away at that stone to make someone realize that they are allowed to change? How does Samantha do that?
Yeah, and I think I also want to, just for anyone listening that is like, I don't know, do I not? The symptoms, I want to, again, give permission for you to be able to be productive both in your business and have a home life. And while a work-life balance can look different for different people, if you're feeling like you're in balance, then you're in balance. And if that means working 17 hours, but then getting 3 hours of really great time with your family and sleeping for 2 because you're a micro sleeper, which is a real thing, whatever's happening, permission to realize that an out of alignment experience can, again, even feel different, but it feels just kind of staticky. It feels like hesitation, like there's a little bit of resistance, even necessarily in the habits that you've already created. There's extra thought to things. There might be some doubt. You might have to just push a little harder. I find that willpower, if you're willpowering through things, you're not in alignment with that thing at that moment.
Agreed.
And so that just could be some ideas. If people are like, well, I don't know, like I'm successful, and so doesn't that mean I'm in alignment? And which is our whole thing, is that no. Because the success that you're having right now, feeling the way that you're feeling, if you're getting defensive listening to this, you might need to hop on a call. Because you're right, when you know, your body knows, even if you've consciously, because you're so good at problem solving, have convinced yourself that this is just the way it has to be. Here's your permission to be powerful, and your permission to be, and permission to allow the fact that it does not have to be this hard all the time. So just putting that out there. Then to answer your actual question, I am certified in the modalities that I mentioned earlier, the NLP, the EFT tapping, hypnosis, time, which is hypnosis for generational clearing, which has just been incredible. And so the way that I work, once people have really identified, okay, this is a thing that I'm feeling a little resistance, going to work every day, even if you love it, and even if you love what you're making, there's just a little bit of resistance, or you're procrastinating, things like that. Then I start by clearing the guilt and the shame around it. We really work on the shoulds, again, getting clear on the vision that's really yours, and starting to separate the muddling of the messaging that you're receiving from the outside and what is truly within your beam of light. And so we separate those and figure out where it's coming from you and where it's coming from these examples that you have curated over your life. And once we get clear on that beam of light, we start to clear out the guilt, shame, judgment, and anger, sadness, hurt, or fear around that light, and start to build you a little barrier. And you start to get this little bubble of protection around clarity, is really what that comes down to, is you start to obtain clarity in your direction, trust within yourself to utilize your resources and to do what you have done to get you where you are. Just now it gets to feel good. And I do that also physically through a 1-day in-person retreat, one-on-one, and then follow up via Discord channel, actually, because I find that Facebook is a little distracting.
Yeah, agreed. Facebook is definitely distracting, and that's one of the big reasons I don't have or use Messenger anymore. Like, it's not on my phone. I deleted the app. It's a big distraction with people coming from that place of lack, trying to pitch, doing the shotgun tactics. And that is not what I teach. That is not what resonates with the entrepreneurs who I want to serve. And so, yeah, I totally understand getting away from that. So once you start tapping into and I love the way you put it, their beam of light, because I truly think that that's what it is, essentially. We are not this meat suit, for lack of a better term. We are an energetic being having a human experience. And tapping into that is the way to start bringing your purpose, your passions, all of that forward in a way that, like you said, feels good. So when you start, what do you find is the best modality, or does it change for each person as far as how to start tapping into that beam of light?
Yeah, absolutely. So my favorite, if I had to, had to pick one and I could only do one, would be the time and clearing that generational timeline, because it allows to tap into traumas and experiences without having to experience them again. A lot of times in traditional therapy, to be able to clear the meaning that we have placed on memories, you have to therefore revisit said memory. And with time, we're able to go before the memory and clear up to it and through it. And so it ends up being able to be hit without having to experience it. So it's a lot less re-traumatizing. It's a lot less traumatic. It's a lot less emotionally draining than other modalities and other techniques. So I love time, but it's it does change, and it also depends on how far people are, because of course bringing awareness is that first step. Because with everything that I do, if we are not in alignment with what's about to happen, you will, even if it's cleared, what'll happen is, because our subconscious mind will always prove us right with your reticular activating system, your RAS, which is what brings things into your awareness once they become important to you. So right when you buy a new car and then you see that car suddenly everywhere, the cars had been there the whole time. It just
Right.
wasn't deemed important enough to be in your space yet. And so if I'm trying to convince you about these cars and you have yet to see them, then it's not going to be a helpful modality for you. So I start with NLP, neuro linguistic programming. This is where we take the conscious, this is where your words become the bridge for your conscious to your subconscious, because your words don't just describe, they define. And so just listening to the language of people, I can start to identify very quickly beliefs, patterns, systems that are already held in place. And then what I do is I help the individual become aware of those things so that they themselves are starting to see the cars, and then we can go from there. So I do a lot of NLP to begin with, a lot of identity shifting, and just, again, starting to carve out the channel for that beam of light, allowing them to see that there is indeed a channel that's there, to separate the colors. It's kind of like they're colorblind and they're getting their glasses on. Or really, they're putting on colorblind glasses and getting them to take them off and to see what they've always been able to see when it's not muted. And so going through that process, and then depending on what it is that's blocking their light, will depend on what modality is used.
Hmm. So in a sense, you are using the NLP to open the door for them to have not only awareness of what's going on, but to start maybe accepting the help, accepting your guidance or suggestions, right?
Absolutely. And to start realizing that the guidance is coming from them as well. And so absolutely opening that channel, opening that door, because the more aware we are of things, we can bring them into our conscious thought to start to really work on them. And so that's why when people are freaking out and they're spiraling and they'll get slapped in the face and it breaks them out of it. You can do that with yourself, that pattern interrupt, that can happen. And so I help to lovingly acknowledge those moments and those opportunities for pattern interrupts and for spirals. And again, I can see them from the outside a lot easier than I can read the label of a box, much easier from the outside than people can from the inside of the box. And so, which is the power of a coach, as you know, is getting that outside words and the outside observation.
Right.
And so from there, it also will depend on how experienced they are. For instance, time, hypnosis, it's a skill. I cannot hypnotize you into a trance and make you do anything. There's all these myths that, of course, need to be debunked if people haven't even heard of hypnosis, aren't comfortable with it. Hopping right in isn't going to be important, impactful. And so, and if people aren't comfortable with that at all, then we don't do that one and we move on to topping her. So it depends on how experienced people are and what they've already gone through and tried and what they already have prejudgments on, for the kind of program that'll be crafted for them. But yeah, I like NLP because it does take that conscious piece. And even as we're making shifts and doing energetic things, I always resort to bringing the shifts back into their consciousness, because that's where our conscious processing happens, of course. And so while things are always happening on a subconscious level, I find that the more aware and present that RAS is to things, your reticular activating system, the more that you'll be able to see those cars on the road.
Yeah, 100%. It's all about awareness and being able to have that vision, that understanding that, hey, for whatever reason, this is important. It keeps coming up. I keep recognizing it, seeing it, and then finding the meaning behind that thing is also very important as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you do these retreats, which sound, again, it sounds very focused, very intimate, and which obviously is what you love and the attention that you love to give a person. It's a 1 day thing. And how long is that day? How long is that process?
Yeah, and it's so funny because, right, I did a 14-day transformation, challenge that was 14 days, but it was an hour a day of the videos, and there's all these things about days, and it's a very vague time. When for my retreats, they are in person, because while I absolutely can do things over Zoom, and because energy is all around us, I like being able to be here. You can't necessarily, of course you can run, you're not trapped, but you can't just like log off when it gets uncomfortable. There's a level of commitment to being in person, as anyone that's ever gone anywhere in person would know. And so my day is a literal taking every moment of the day that we can. So people, if they're traveling, are going to come in probably the night before to be able to be here, and then breakfast the whole way through till bedtime. We're going to be together hanging out, and it'll be eating, right? Because again, with NLP and with hypnotic language and my intuitive abilities, being every time we speak, we'll be able to unravel a little bit. There's opportunity for awareness. There's opportunity for people's guard to come down. And so as we get to build a rapport, we start to move forward. And so it's kind of a 3-step program where at the beginning we meet probably on Zoom, unless you're local, and then we can meet in person. We get where you're at, your experience, all those things. I like to meet you again where you're at instead of tell you where you're starting, so that we don't create already coming in and creating problems that aren't there. Let's figure out what's happening, what you're already aware of, and then I will craft the day from there. So then the day we'll have breakfast together, and then we'll start healing. We'll start going through some techniques. We'll start loosening some things up, and then we'll take a break for integration and maybe go on a hike, or maybe, go shopping, or maybe we'll get a massage. And again, it just will depend on the person. And then we'll have lunch, and we'll continue to heal, and we'll continue to integrate, and we'll continue to drink lots of water and just take the whole day to redesign and reimagine and loosen up and give full permission and feel what that feels like to live like that for a day, to live in this space of allowance and freedom and true acceptance. And so we go throughout the day, again, through dinner, and then until bed, until we're exhausted. It'll be quite an emotionally filled day. And then after that, there's follow-up, like I said, on Discord, because now we have created this new identity, these new beliefs, this new awareness, these new beautiful patterns that are going to be transferred back into the old paradigm. And so this is where the assistance afterwards comes in to maintain that support, to maintain that light, to remind you of what's happening, what you've done, and the skills that have been acquired during that day, you can use yourself, of course, to maintain. So I love keeping long-term relationships with clients in the form of being able to grow with them. Also, the point is to be able to create a sustainable, lasting up level and a quantum leap that there is no going back from, that they are able to maintain and be able to grow, and then get themselves to that next level until they need help reading the label again.
And that was going to be my next question is, have you had people come back?
I have, yeah. I actually, and I'm not even going to knock on wood, because I'm not going to jinx it, but I have a guarantee with my program that if we do not, loosen things up, if there is not results, because I am an intuitive success and results guide. And so if there is not clarity within that light with that day, then we'll keep working together until there is. But I've never had to enact that. And I have had people come back, and I have had only ever positive review. I've never had a disappointed client. And yes, absolutely. It's something that is here, and I understand scarcity tactics in marketing, and I understand that I don't work with people that aren't full body yeses, that don't hear me and experience me and go, oh my gosh, that, like, let's move forward, let's go. And those people understand that the progress that they've made is but just a step in their potential. And so there might be time, space in between where they kind of, again, integrate on them down their own, come to this new space of, okay, this is now where I'm at. Let's link back up.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't imagine anybody being unhappy with spending an entire day with you. Like, I want to hang out with you, like whether I'm in your coaching or not. Like, I just want to hang out. It's who would be unhappy hanging out with Sam for a day? Come on.
Thanks, Brian.
Absolutely. So, in the terms of connecting with you and having the opportunity to be coached by you, to have that up level and continue to expand in that bubble. If someone is watching this and they are a full body yes, how do they get in touch with you to have that special day?
Absolutely. So on Instagram, it's _ Samantha Belle. If you just search Samantha Belle, it comes up. But that is where I'm most active. And so if you're curious, if you're just experiencing this, but wanting a little more, that is where really my free content lies. I'm also on TikTok, but that's a little more performance. So if you want to hear me sing, and you can go over there for that. But Instagram is really where I'm at there. And that's really where my free content lies. And then as far as connecting with me, I have, like I said, did the 14-day transformation, and I've done the courses that I quote unquote should do. And now I just include them within this transformation. And so if whoever chooses to explore the fulfillment experience, get access to everything that I have in the back office, as well as Discord. There's not levels, you either work with me or you don't. And I have the benefit of, again, now that I've come into my own light, this is the only offer that I have. And I have it on 2 levels. I either have the one-on-one individual, and then I also have it for business. So for my entrepreneurs that run a little bit more of a bigger company, I think that this would be good for rapport within the company, and for people to be able to really connect on a cultural level. That is another opportunity that I have, where I will do these days with the CEO. The head entrepreneur, of course, gets their day, but then the heads of departments can potentially get theirs. And so Instagram is where to follow me and connect that way. And then my link in bio is to book a call, because I do pride myself on my energy and my abilities to connect, again, with people that are ready. And so there is an application process to make sure that everybody's time is taken and we hit efficiency right out the gate. And so you can book a call to investigate that opportunity from my Instagram page.
Perfect. Very simple, very succinct. And of course, that link will be down below in the show description. So you guys, gals, you creative people, you sparklers, if you will, if you need to sparkle even more, if you need to up level yourself to feel more fulfilled in your career, your path, connect with Samantha, go visit her Instagram, click that link, get on a call, and just watch your life change. No doubt she can do it. So thank you so much, dear. I appreciate you so much for the story, the value, and everything you've shared here today. It was a pleasure to connect with you again.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Brian. Thanks for having me. And I appreciate everyone watching for giving your energy to this, and for your time. And I'm excited to, let's get coffee or something.
There you go. There you go. And I'm in town. I'm in Phoenix, so should totally happen. All right. Well, you take care, my dear. Again, thank you so much for your time and everything you shared here today.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys, for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like. Please give it a comment. Let me know what your biggest takeaway was from this amazing entrepreneur's interview. And if you want to see more videos just like the one you watched, click right up here because they're exactly what you need to see next. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.